Welcome back to our series on Microsoft Entra ID via Graph API. In our previous session, we covered a range of operations including creating and validating application ID secret and providing permissions, generating tokens, retrieving user details, and performing various operations such as counting, filtering, sorting, and searching users. We also demonstrated how to create new users, update specific user properties like city and country, and delete users using Microsoft Graph API. In this session, we will begin with an overview of different types of group available in Microsoft Entra ID and their support within the Graph API. I will then demonstrate how to perform common operation on group using Microsoft Graph API. Our focus will include creating a new group, listing all groups, retrieving existing groups, updating groups properties, and deleting groups. Additionally, we will explore listing the member and owner of the group, adding or removing members and owners, determine if a user is a member of a specific groups, and identifying all the groups a user is belong to. Groups in Microsoft Entra ID streamline access management, enhancing security and promoting collaboration across Microsoft 365 applications like Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, and custom applications. There are four primary types of group. Microsoft 365 groups are ideal for project collaboration and resource sharing within Microsoft 365 applications. They include a shared inbox, calendar, document library, and more, making them suitable for small to medium sized teams. Security groups essential for access control, granting permission to files, folders, application, and resources. They simplify security management by enabling easy assignment or revocation of permission for multiple users at once. Distributions group used primarily for email communication, enabling the distribution of announcement, newsletters, and other bulk email without individual recipients. They focus on efficiently sending message to large group but do not handle security permission. Mail-enable security groups combining features of security and distribution groups. They offer both access control and email capabilities, crucial for groups requiring both security management and communications. Please note that only Microsoft 365 groups and security groups are manageable through the Microsoft Graph Group API, while distribution groups and mail-enabled security groups are read-only. Let's dive into creating a Microsoft 365 group using the Graph API. To do this, initiate a new HTTP request, Microsoft 365 groups. With the post method, include the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/groups. In the header, ensure to include content type set to application JSON and authorization with barrier token. If you are unsure how to generate a new token, refer to the video titled How to Generate Access Token in Azure Entra ID using the Graph API, linked in the video description below. In the request body, include the parameter display name, which will be the name displayed in the address book. Include a description for group, provide a mail nickname, set mail enabled true for the mailable group, which will become email address for the group, set security enabled to false for non-security group, and specify group type as unified for Microsoft 365 group. Click the send button to create a new Microsoft 365 group. A response status code of 201 indicates that the group has been successfully created. In portal.azure.com, navigate to Groups and search Start with Cells. Open the group created. You will notice that it does not have any member. Checking the owner section, we'll find that a service principal has been added as a default owner. Now let's create another Microsoft 365 group with the designated owners and members. Update the display name, description, mail nickname, In the request body, to include honors, append honors@odata.bind with https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/user/honor id and repeat for both honors. Now let's do the same to include two members, appending members@odata.bind with https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/user/member id. Do it twice. To update the owner ID and member ID for respective users with object IDs, navigate to portal.azure.com and choose users. For example, to include Achal and Adam as a owner, update their object ID in the owners array. Likewise, add the object ID of Alexander and Smith in the member array. Click the Send button again to create a new Microsoft 365 group. Once created, navigate to newly created group in portal.azure.com and verify the owners and members. You should see Achal and Adam is listed as a owner and Alexander and Smith listed as a member. Let's create a security group. Initiate a new HTTP request named Create Security Group with the post method. Include the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group. In the header, include content type set to application JSON and authorization with barrier token. In the request body, add the display name, description, and mail nickname. Since we are creating a security group, set mail enabled to false and security enabled to true. Ensure to leave group type blank. We will include owner and member by adding arrays for owners@odata.bind and members@odata.bind. And within each, we shall add the respective user's object ID. Navigate to users in Microsoft Azure and include the user Achal and Adam as a owner. Append their object ID to owners@odata.bind. Similarly, add the object ID of Alexander and Smith as a member in members@odata.bind. Click the Send button to execute the request and create a new security group. Afterward, navigate to the group section in portal.azure.com. This time, you will observe that the security group has been successfully created without an email address and is specifically designated as a security group. Additionally, it has two members and two owners. Do you want to list all the groups available in organization? To list all the groups available in organization, initiate a new HTTP request, list groups. Use the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/groups. In the header, include content type set to application JSON, authorization with barrier token. Click the Send button to execute the request. This will retrieve all the groups present in tenant. Now, to get the count of groups, enhance the URL by adding count equal to true and include consistency level with the value eventual in the header. This change ensures that the response includes a count of groups. To avoid retrieving large dataset, we can retry records in pages by including top in the query parameter to limit the result. For instance, setting top equal to 2 restrict the output to the first two records. To retry the next two records, use the data.next link provided in the response. To avoid retrying all metadata associated with groups and to focus on specific data, use the select query parameter. For example, to retry only the ID and display name of group, specify them in query parameter with select. You can sort the output based on any metadata value using the order by query parameter. For example, to order the group by display name, apply the order by query parameter, this sort and return the result based on the display name value. The Graph API support various filter operations such as start with, end with, EQ, not, and more, allowing for precise data query. For instance, to find groups where the display name start with G, use the start with filter. This return group where display name start with G. For those interested in more advanced filtering technique, I recommend to watch Mastering Advanced Filter in Microsoft Graph API. The link is provided in the video description below. This will give you deeper understanding of how to effectively use filters to navigate and manage data in Microsoft Graph. To retry the properties of group object, create a new HTTP request, get groups. Set the URL to https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group/group ID. To find the object ID of group, navigate to portal.azure.com, go to Groups, and select Object ID of the group. Replace group ID in the URL with the object ID. In the request header, ensure to include authorization field populated with the barrier token. Click the Send button to execute it. This operation returns a subset of default properties associated with the specific group. To update the property value of group, create a new HTTP request. Update group using the page method. Set the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group/group ID. To find the group object ID, navigate to the group section in portal.azure.com and copy the group object ID from there. Replace the group ID in the URL with the copied object ID. In the headers of your request, include content type with application JSON and authorization with barrier followed by the token. In the request body, specify only the properties that you need to updated. For instance, change the group's display name Finance Team Access to Finance Team. Properties not mentioned in the request body will retain their existing value. After setting up your request, click the Send button to execute it. This action will update the group display name. Status 204 indicates success. To verify the updated value, navigate to portal.azure.com and confirm the display name is now Finance Team. When a Microsoft 365 group is deleted, it is moved to temporary container and can be restored within 30 days. After that time, it is permanently deleted. It is important to note that this restorable feature doesn't apply to security groups and distribution groups which are permanently deleted immediately upon deletion. To delete a group, create a new HTTP request delete group with the delete method. Set the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group/group id. To find the group ID, navigate to portal.azure.com, locate the group you wish to delete, and copy its object ID. Replace group ID in the URL with the actual object ID. In the header of your request, include authorization with barrier followed by the token. Click the send button to execute the request. A response status 204 indicates that the group has been successfully deleted. Refresh the page in portal.azure.com to confirm that the group 10 has been deleted successfully. A group can have various types of members such as organizational contact, devices, service principal, and other groups. To retrieve a list of groups direct member, create a new HTTP request list members and owners with the get method. In the URL include https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/groups/group id/members. To replace group ID, navigate to portal.azure.com, select the group you are interested in, and copy its object ID. Replace with group ID in the URL. Ensure your request header include the authorization with barrier followed by the token. Once your request configured, click the send button to execute it. This will return a list of all the group members. If you are interested to identifying the group's owner, simply replace members with owners in the URL. Send the request again. This time it will fetch the list of group owners. Additionally, you can obtain the count of members and owners. Select top member, choose specific metadata, sort members using order by, apply filters, and more. These advanced techniques were discussed earlier in the list groups section. You can also refer to my video Mastering Advanced Filtering in Microsoft Graph API for more detailed guidance. The link to the video is included in the video description for easy access. To add a member to a security group or Microsoft 365 group, begin by creating a new HTTP request with the name add member. For this page request, set the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group/group id. Replace group ID with the actual object ID of the group. I will navigate to portal.azure.com in the groups. Let's consider group 11, which currently do not have members or owners. Replace group ID with group 11 object ID. In the header, include content type set to application JSON and authorization with barrier followed by the token. In the request body, inside member@odata.bind, include one or more member by appending in the format https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/directory object/user id. Replace user ID with the actual object ID. To do this, in Azure, navigate to User section to obtain the object ID of the user. Let's say we want to add Achal and Adam to the group, copy user's object ID and replace user ID accordingly. Click the send button to execute it. A successful operation will return status code of 204. Navigate to the member section of group in portal.azure.com. Here you can see Achal and Adam listed as a member. To remove members from groups, start by creating a new HTTP request. Remove member and change the request type to delete. In the URL include https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/groups/group id/member/member id/ref. Replace group ID with the object ID of the group from which you want to remove the member, and member ID with the object ID of the member you want to remove. For example, to remove Achal from group 1, replace member ID with Achal's object ID and group ID with the group 1 object ID. In the header of your request, include authorization with barrier followed by the token. Click the send button to execute the request. Upon successful execution, verify the removal of the member in Azure Group 1. Achal should no longer be listed among the member. To add a user as a group owner, begin by creating a new HTTP post request with name add owners. Set the URL to https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group/group id. For this page request, replacing group ID with the actual object ID of the group where you want to add the owner. In this example, let's add an owner to group 11 which currently has no owner. In the headers, ensure that content type is set to application JSON and include authorization with your barrier token. In the request body, include owners@odata.bind with https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/directory-object/user-id. Let's say we want to add Adam and Achal as a owner. Replace user ID with the user object ID of the individual you wish to add as a owner. Once you have configured this request, click the send button. This action will add the specified user as a owner of the group. To remove an owner from group, initiate a new HTTP request with remove owners using the delete method. Set the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/group/group id/owner/owner id/ref. In this example, let's from group 11 we shall remove Adam, so replace group ID with the actual group object ID from which you want to remove the owner, and owner ID with Adam's object ID. In the header, include authorization with your barrier token. Click the send button to execute the request. This action will remove Adam from group 11 owner list. To check if a specific user is a member of particular group, you can utilize the check member group function. Start creating a HTTP request with the post method. Set the URL to https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/directory-object/user-id/check member group. Here we shall check for the Alexander. Replace user ID with the actual user object ID. In the header, include the content type with application JSON along with authorization barrier token. Navigate to Request Body. Under Row, list down all the groups you are looking to verify the user membership. I will add the object ID of Customer Champions, Finance Teams, Group 1 and Group 11. Click the Send button. In the result, we can see it return all the group object IDs. Alexander is a member. We also have a check member object function, which is broader. Check member group checks if a user or service principal is a part of specific groups and return those group ID. On the other hand, check member objects not only check group membership but also include directory roles and administrative unit, offering a broader verification useful for detailed access role management. To use check member objects in the URL, I will change to check member object and body. Instead of group ID, I will change to IDs. Click the send button. This time in the result we won't see any difference as all the IDs we have provided belong only to the group. However, in actual usage, it can return membership across different types of directory objects. Earlier we input the group and user to verify the user membership within the group. But what if I want to find all the group user is member of? To obtain all the group that specific user is a member of, let's create a new HTTP request with name getMemberGroup. Use the URL https://graph.microsoft.com/v1.0/directory-object/user-id/getMemberGroups. In this example, we shall find the groups for user Alexander, replacing user ID with the actual user ID. In the header, include content type with application JSON along with authorization barrier token. Navigate to request body and under row, include security enabled only false. This setting ensures that all the type of group return. If you set security enabled to true, it return only security group. Click the send button to execute the request. This action will return list of groups to which Alexander is member, including Customer Champion, Finance Team and Group 1. We explore managing groups in Microsoft Entra ID using the Graph API. We covered key operations like creating, listing, updating, deleting groups, along with managing members and owners. To put your learning into action, experiment Graph Explorer. And don't forget to like, subscribe and comment for more tutorial. Thank you for watching and happy coding.